Hello, hello, hello. What's up, everybody? How are you doing tonight? Happy Wednesday evening. Welcome to the very last portion of our virtual leadership summit. Many of you are getting some free access to tonight's bonus call that we decided to throw in a couple weeks ago, and we decided to open this one up for everybody. So many of you that were a part of the virtual leadership summit, we had 4 different calls, and then this morning we had a bonus call for those of you that were VIPs, and we have had a freaking awesome time. I did one lesson myself that was on my specific model of leadership that I learned from John Maxwell, which is model, motivate, mentor, multiply. How to create specific systems and boundaries so that your business does not take over your life. How many of you have noticed it's kind of a lot of work to grow a business and grow a team? And sometimes one of the limiting beliefs holding you back from growing a team is the amount of work you think it's going to take to also have to do a business and a team at the same time. And some of you, you allow that to cripple you, and you stay put in your business, not letting it grow for the fear of what monster you might create in the future. And that's one of the things that I addressed. And then, of course, I featured several of my clients to help you understand some of the systems that they use to protect their time, to help their teams. And tonight is just felt like the perfect extension of what I was teaching on, because tonight I've got my personal automation manager that I'll introduce to you guys here in just a minute. I've been huge on automation, really for ever since I mentored under my brother, who was a youth pastor at the time. He taught me this idea of delegation and outsourcing. And I feel like because I'm a peacock, my brother was a rhino, it was always harder for him to let go of things. And being a peacock, I'm like, everybody's invited to the party. You want to help me out? Let's do this. And I really do feel like I have, for the minute I had the ability to outsource, I started doing it. I make my clients hire assistants. I always, in the breakdown session of my very first session with every client, one of the questions I ask them is, what do you need to outsource? Because here's the thing, and I believe this is a quote Steve actually might have put on his website, that essentially really the only way to level up in your business is to continue to outsource and automate the things that do not need your attention so that you can tend to the things that do need your attention. So that's something that I've been doing, and something that John Maxwell teaches very, very, very heavily on as well. And I've been doing it for as long as I could pretty much afford to do it. I now have a team of 2 people that are kind of full-time employees for me. And then I have Steve, who is my automation manager. He does it for many different people, so I don't really call him an employee. I mean, he is essentially a part of my team, I guess, but I'm not his full-time income. He's a part of many teams. At this point, I actually was introduced to him by my good buddy Melissa McAllister, who many of you know, who to be honest, is the queen of automation. I'm constantly telling all of my clients, you want to have a Melissa McAllister business. You want to be able to travel the world, go on as many vacations as you want, and have systems set up to constantly bring to you the things you need, get the things done. It's not one or the other. People think it's like I can either like peace out from my business and be present for life, or I can peace out of my life and be present for my business. It doesn't have to be one or the other. Like Grant Cardone has taught us, it's always and, never or. Why wouldn't you want to be present for life and for business? And so that is why I personally outsource. And then I brought Steve. I hired him just a couple months ago, and it has already taken a huge, huge, huge burden off of me, and added a huge burden to my assistants because there's like thousands of messages, which is a good thing. As a business owner, I'm totally okay with paying my assistants more money because there's more people than ever to talk to about our training groups and products. And that is thanks to Steve. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute Steve. This is one of my teammates who has become a good friend who is going to add a ton of value to us tonight. Steve, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate it.
Hey Josh, I'm excited to be here. You know, I'm a little nervous. You've got lots of eyes on me here, but you know, I'm more of the automation guy behind the screen and things like that. But you know, I don't mind talking now and again. So it's great to talk to you. And you know what you were saying about your virtual leadership summit, I did sneak in on the first call, and that one alone was worth the value. I was like, oh, I need to do this in my business. I need to do this in my business. Josh, you're speaking to me.
Well, you know,
even if you're not in network marketing, what Josh is teaching is huge.
you don't get to work with me without also somehow getting coached by me. My app guy, which PS, I don't know if you guys heard this, but my app will be done by the end of this month. We will be having basically a beta version next month for everyone who's in my paid training groups. And then the month after that, we'll open it up to the public once we've got all the kinks worked out to where we'll have like some freebies and stuff like that in it. But my app guy literally, I was in California driving to the beach and he calls me. He's like, hey, I need your help. I got invited to speak for this event. Can you walk me through what to do? And so it's like, absolutely, this is what I live for. I love it. So me and Steve, we're just back and forth all the time, learning from each other. So Steve, let's get straight to it, because I've got a hot seat call with my push life in an hour. So, and I know you've got 1,000 things to do for me tonight, so I don't want to take too much of your time. Number one, why is it important to automate?
Why is it important to automate? Doesn't network marketing sometimes feel like you're on a hamster wheel? You're going round and round and round, and you have those conversations with people for so long, and it just feels like you're getting nowhere. So, you know, one of the things that we see a lot with network marketers is they get to that point in their business. Well, when they start, they're having conversations, and they're afraid to ask whether that person's interested in getting started. So they don't pre-qualify them until they say, here's how you get started. And then the person says, oh, I've got no money to do that, or I don't want to be involved with that. So you know, you've spent all this time, you've invested all this time in it, and maybe you can't actually help them. So one of the great things that you can do in terms of automation is pre-qualify someone, is see if they will be a fit for your product or for joining your team. But essentially, as you said, you know, outsourcing becomes a big deal because you have to decide where to spend your time. And we see with the top network marketers that essentially they need to spend most of their time in content, because that's how they engage people. That's how they build relationships with people. So, and content can be something that's public facing as much as it can be a webinar for the team, a drop in, a team call, something like that, or one-on-one time with one of their team members. So content is where bigger network marketers need to be. So at that point, they need to automate a lot of the processes or outsource them. Yeah. And my machines are cheaper than your assistants generally. So. Sorry, J-Ring. Is he here?
It's okay. He's not listening. Don't tell him.
The J-Ring.
So when I first told my girlfriend that you were setting up bots for me, she was like, both. It was one of those things that she's like, I'm gonna love to hate this guy, because the therapy company that she works for right now, it's a virtual therapy company, is essentially in the future getting rid of her with robots. So part of her was like pissed, like, oh God, I hate robots. But then part of her is like, but then again, if I could use robots for my own personal business, now that's like, nobody likes robots when they're replacing you, but everyone likes robots when they're working for you.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Right?
It's true. It's a changing world for sure. And we're going to see more and more automation.
Which is essentially empowering small business owners like us to become more powerful without having to have, because here's the thing, I realize that everyone on this call doesn't have the money to go hire assistants right now. Not everyone does, of course. Now, of course, when you get to the point where you can afford an assistant, I'm making you do it. You don't have a choice. I will tell you, go get one right now, and then I will talk you through your 5 limiting beliefs that you have about spending that money, and I will show you how quickly it can pay off when you get to spend more time doing the right things. But essentially, automation is the same concept. you are getting back more of your time to do the things you love doing and spending less time doing things like, hey girl, does anyone on this call enjoy sending hey girl messages? If you do, you are a totally different kind of breed than anyone I've ever met. Please message me. I'll hook you up with some great assistant jobs. But most of you don't love sending hey girls. You love to hear, yes, I'm interested. What do I need to do? That's what you love to hear. So Steve, walk me through some of the specific ways people can automate their business.
Okay. So when I think about marketing, I kind of think of it as a journey. Okay, and you bear with me. I should have a slide really. I'd be more prepared. But
I hate slides, Steve. I hate.
Okay, good. Because that's the teacher of me coming in. But awareness is kind of like where you start. So someone gets to know who you are, right? So let's say you're using Instagram and you're using hashtags. Hopefully not branded ones. Hopefully you're not using Senegence or Shakeology or Prove It as one of your hashtags, because you're only going to attract people who are using those hashtags.
Right.
But you attract someone by using, work at home mom or corgi lover like the Queen. Brit in America, I see Sabrina. So you use those hashtags to bring people in. That's the first step. That's awareness. Okay. So how can you build awareness through automation? Free one for you guys here, Captivate. There's an app called Captivate for Instagram. It enables you to go and find someone and see who their followers are. You can copy their followers and you can set it to automatically follow people at a slower pace, so it doesn't look like it's a machine doing it. And if you pick the right people, they'll follow you back, and that will build your audience. Josh is writing that one down.
I am. I'm literally taking notes right now.
I'll send you an invoice for that one, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
And so the next step is engagement. So that's when you start to talk to someone. That's when they start to respond to your stories and things like that. And that can be done through manually. So you can actually ask questions in your Instagram stories. You can ask questions on a Facebook post rather than just putting a picture of your meal up there. What are you eating tonight? Post a picture of your dinner. Encourage the engagement. So it's kind of the next step along. I then feel the next step is like, okay, well, I'm going to get to know you a bit more. So maybe it's a friend request on Facebook. Maybe it's subscribing to an email list. Emails, it's still incredibly powerful and a great way of engaging people. But also we can bring it in and you can come into the messenger bot at that point. So you can have a Facebook messenger bot, which is what we've been working on for Josh, that literally sits in your inbox. And when someone sends a message, you're subscribed to that messenger bot. And that means essentially that we can send out a message, a notification about an upcoming webinar or an upcoming training, and use that to engage people. And what we've seen with, Josh mentioned, I work with Melissa. We see an open rate on her emails of between 10 and 20%, depending on the subject line. We get good subject lines. We sometimes don't get good subject lines. That's kind of the way that marketing goes. But with a bot, we see a 90% open rate and 20 to 30% click-through rate, which is 10 times what you would expect to get from an email. So because we get a Facebook message from a bot to our phone, we look at it and we take action on it. Whereas an email, you go in and you've got 90 emails and there's one from Best Buy, 17 from Amazon, and 3 from Josh Coates. And it's hard to pick those things out. So it's kind of a blue ocean right now. There's not many people in the messenger bot space, and it's certainly a good place to go out there to engage people. Yeah. And then of course, in terms of the automation side, there's also the email side of things. So having someone download what Shalene would call a freemium, what I'd call a lead magnet, something of value that they're willing to exchange their email address for. This can all happen in the background. You can run a Facebook ad to that freemium, and then that can be automatically sent to someone. And then a couple of days later, you can send them another email that introduces a little bit more about that person. You can share some funny pictures. You can try and build a relationship, because essentially, much as though I love automation doesn't necessarily lead directly to a sale, and particularly in network marketing. It leads to a human interaction. I believe in H to H communication rather than it's not B2B, it's not B2C, it's human to human communication. And that's what we're trying to encourage with the automation that we use.
Right. And I love that because, someone was asking me, mentioned something yesterday about ROI with my Facebook ads. And I said, here's the thing. I don't measure ROI the way most people do, because I measure ROI. I like the way Grant Cardone talks about it. I want to be omnipresent. I want my name and face to be everywhere you go so that you can't get away from me. Because, as I've said a million times, this is a people business, but it's a numbers game. It's a people business. I want to help people. I want to help, dude. When I see testimonials at the end of the month, dude, like I just like get so freaking excited. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see one of the highlight stories that I have is some of my top testimonials. And I got like 100 more that need to be added, but I don't want to like overwhelm people with like 150 testimonials. But that's the end result I want. Okay. But in order to get that end result, I got to be smart enough to play the numbers game that says, from an email perspective, for instance, like Steve was saying, we've got a 15 to 20% open rate. We've got a 2 to 8% click rate. That is the numbers game. If I know the numbers game, now I can play, because I know that if I want 40 people to click, which essentially is going to be 4 or 5 purchases, well, I can undo the math. Even if you're not mathematically minded, you can Google it. Okay. How many subscribers do I need to have an 8% click rate of basically of essentially 40 people that gets me 4 or 5 sales? In other words, you now have a mathematical formula that allows you to get the results you want if you can produce the numbers. Now, I've always said that for every 10 people you invite, got about 1 sale. Now, it takes a little bit of time and messaging back and forth to get that 1 sale, but for every 10, not conversations, 10 invites, correct? How many of you noticed? You send a message, you've got a 40% response rate, correct? Of the 40% response rate, we're probably only gonna get, essentially 50% of those people to a point where we can actually invite them. So essentially we've got a 20% for every 10 messages you have, you're essentially gonna get to invite 2 of them. Start 10 conversations, get 2 invites, okay? And then for every 10 invites, which means you got to multiply everything by 5 now. Mathematics, I know it's getting a little bit confusing, but here's the point I'm trying to make. More sales, what does it take? More people in your inbox. And essentially, the more people you have already in the inbox, the less people you have to go find through hashtags, find through digging through users. How many of you have noticed that finding people is like half of the work, and then you got to message them, and then you got to go through that. And so essentially what Steve is talking about is having a system that gets those people there for you, so you're not spending all of your time researching and discovering people. You're spending your time talking to the people that discovered you. Does that make sense? So with all of that being said, okay, because I know you mentioned a lot of words, bots, ads, automate. I mean, to some people, these is like a foreign language we're speaking over here. And even though I don't implement this system, I understand and know the language and the process. How tech savvy do you have to be able to do this? I mean, is this just the stuff that people like Josh who make multi-6 figures pay people money to do, or is this stuff people can actually do themselves if needed?
I'm a teacher, and I believe that anyone can do anything. I teach for our local university here. I teach marketing and I teach human resources classes. So I'm a big believer in people. So I believe that anyone can do this, but anyone can put up a Facebook ad. Let's face it, it doesn't take anything to click the create ad button. Facebook makes it really easy to put up a Facebook ad. But the problem is that if you put it up and you're not quite sure what you're doing, and you don't test and you don't think about who you're actually writing the ad to, Facebook takes your money really easily. And I've seen people spend thousands of dollars on Facebook ads and say, Facebook ads just don't work for me because they tried one ad and they messed with the audience. They didn't try changing the text and they didn't try changing the image and things like that. So I believe that anyone can do automation, but there's a right and a wrong way to do it. And, you know, I think it helps to have a step-by-step guide for, you know, how to move forward with that.
Yeah. You definitely don't want to do it with no, like, you don't want to guess it. You don't want to fake it till you make it when you're spending money. It's okay to fake it till you make it with your selfies and like your post, but it's not, you do not want to fake it till you make it when you are spending money on something like ads to get people in your inbox. That's a really good way to make Facebook a lot of money.
Yep, and they do pretty well from that.
they do really well, especially when you didn't go through Josh's Facebook ad training that said, hey, start off by experimenting with like $5 a day. Most people are like, well, if I want to see results, I got to spend like $200 a day. And I'm like, if you don't know what you're doing, why would you give $200? Would you go invest $200 a day right now on the stock market without researching the stock market, knowing what? No one would do that, right? But then they do those Facebook ads and then they complain that Facebook ads doesn't work. And I wanted to pull this up real quick while we're talking. So essentially, Steve, we just got the bot set up because we had a lot of other stuff that we were working on. And I mean, it looks like I have started in the last 7 days, 155 messages in my inbox on my like page while I was on calls talking to you guys, training and mentoring you guys. 155 conversations got started for me in 7 days. Now, in my Art of Recruiting group, Push Mastermind, I have people starting 20 conversations a day, which essentially is 140 a week. I did the same work that I made all of you do without actually doing anything. I mean, is that freaking like legit or what? That to me, I mean, that's the kind of business that I've always wanted to grow. I want my business growing while I'm doing the things I love. So let's talk about that. Specifically, how does this automation system help people grow their business? And let's maybe also let's dive in a little bit more to specifically what your automation, because the word automation could mean a million things, right?
Yeah.
But you have implemented a very specific automation system with me. So
let's talk about your automation. Let's talk about your automation.
Let's talk about exactly what you set up for me and what that looks like.
Okay, so for Josh, we have 3 different Facebook ads, and none of them are running at huge budgets. We're not talking hundreds of dollars a day here. It's a fairly modest budget. Where we start with these 3 ads that are leading to a lead magnet, a freemium, as Chalene would call it. I have to decide which side I want to call that. You know, lead magnet's the technical side, and a lot of people in network marketing know Chalene. So, but for Josh, it's his next level recruiting guide. It's a great ebook that he wrote a while back. But it's a great resource, and so people who download that tend to be in network marketing because they're the people who are looking to recruit. So we target people in those areas, specifically with Facebook ads. You may have been called out and seen, you know, Beachbody coaches or network marketer, or, you know, and we've used various terms and various targeting to bring people into comment on a post. And once they comment on the post, correction. There's different ways you can set up a bot. Yeah. Yes, send a message. We say, send me a message. So they click the send a message button, and at that point, they then get greeted by a messenger bot that says, hey, I'm so glad that you're interested in recruiting. It's kind of
Hey, girl.
It's kind of a big deal when it comes to network marketing. You know, recruiting's a big deal. And so if you'd like to get my guide, just type NLR. And so one of the bots in the background then picks up that someone typed NLR and then responds with another page that says, great, I'd love to send it to you. What's your email address? So at this point, we've got them in our messenger chat, so we can send a messenger blast to them. We've also got their email address because we are attaching that from the messenger bot into Josh's email collector. So we've suddenly got this person in 2 places. We've got them cross cross-platform essentially, so we can hit them in various ways. And then, so then they get that, and then we're like, okay, so are you really interested in recruiting? And at that point, we introduce them to the art of recruiting if they are interested. In fact, we also introduce them to the art of recruiting if they're not interested as well. I know some of you have done it with Instagram questions that you'll say, you know, how are you in, or are you really in? and that's kind of what we do here. It's like, do you want to know about the art of recruiting? Okay, you don't want to know about it. Well, this is a great course that I have called the Art of Recruiting. It's not quite that that black and white, but we want everyone to know about the art of recruiting. And essentially, if they don't want to at that point, we'll get them into Josh's free group. And that's something that a lot of you guys can do. You could put someone into a free group at the end of that mini funnel. And so once they're there, we then have the ability to send things out. And Josh is kind enough to send me across some statistics. So we spent $160 to have 155 messages. So $1 to have an interested person who's qualified to talk to you.
Let's really dive into what I got for that $1. For that $1, I have someone who responded to my language. So for me, that's, are you interested in recruiting? That's obviously a network marketer, okay, who wants to grow their business. For you, if it's fitness, it could be, you know, are you interested in a 30-day meal plan? It could be, are you interested in a community where you get accountability and support? If you're in cosmetics, it could be, or even for the business opportunity, it could be, are you interested in a side hustle where you could work from home, be with your babies and still, so we're essentially putting out our language. So when I say $1 per person, I'm not talking about $1 to talk to a random Joe Schmo off the street that I know nothing about that doesn't speak English. I'm talking about a person that has already responded to my language and is my kind of a person. And then for that $1, we got their email address, okay? We sent them my freemium and got them basically the thing that they wanted, introduced them to the art of recruiting to find out if they're serious about it and want more information, which essentially I think the way we set it up was, you know, how serious are you about wanting to recruit your business? And if they say serious, like who's going to say, not that much actually, right? We set it up to where they're going to answer serious, right? And then we say something like, well, my freemium is definitely going to get you started in the right direction. It's going to give you some tips that you need. But if you really want to go to the next level, the art of recruiting is like a 30-day boot camp that gives you a complete business overhaul, literally gives you a daily plan to walk you through growing and building your business. Is that something you'd be interested in hearing more details about? My bot did all of that. So essentially for $1, I got someone who downloaded my freemium, got on my email list, which by the way, I'm going to blast the F out of that, right? And get them on my next webinar or whatever else I want to use that for.
They're going to hear about the app, right?
They're going to hear about the app, the new podcast, my event, my retreat, and then put out the feelers to find out like, okay, like how serious are you about wanting to lose weight? How serious are you about wanting to make some extra income? And now I've got them in this place where they have kind of already sold themselves. They already said like, I really need this. I'm serious. Well, tell me this. In fact, I'll go ahead and give you a little backstory. When I helped Raina Odell hit top 10 in 2016, one of the things that I ask my clients is this: what is your strong point? Like, what's the thing you capitalize on? She said, I capitalize on closing people. Like, that's what I'm good at. I said, okay, from now on, your assistant does basically what I'm now telling you. I have a bot that does for me. We didn't know about this a couple years ago. Your assistant is going to lead them down this trail to where they say, yes, I'm serious. You're going to jump in and you're going to close them. Success Club numbers went boom. Time that she got to spend with her team, helping her team now hit higher numbers went boom. We jumped from 15 to 9 in 6 weeks. Pulled off the craziest miracle anyone has ever seen, which then had pretty much the entire top 10 reaching out to me and hiring me the next month. I mean, so essentially what I'm telling you is that you can spend your time doing what Raina was doing, which is just talking to the people who say, yes, I'm serious. I want what you have. Now, of course, with those people, there's still, a 20 to 30% closing rate. But imagine having a 20 to 30% closing rate instead of a 10% closing rate and not having to do any of the work it took to get them to the point of closing. I mean, that's just what if I could rewind my business 3 years and have a bot doing that for me, I tell you right now, we would already have the 7-figure business. We'd have had that like 2 years ago.
Absolutely. It's just like, yeah, absolutely. It's just such a great way to cut out a lot of that backwards and forwards that doesn't necessarily go anywhere. If you think about your 155 messages, well, let's say they're at the invite stage for a network marketer, then you've got rid of those 10 initial conversations to get down to those 2 invites, and maybe 1 in 10 of them closes still. It's a great opportunity, and maybe they just sit on the fence for a while, and as your bot nurtures them for you, as your bot sends them that great new blog post you wrote on intermittent fasting or how bad cosmetics are from the high street, that's when you really engage them and they suddenly say, you know what, I'm ready to work, let's do this. And that's why it's hard to track ROI, because it could come 90 days, 180 days down the line.
Totally. Which is why I love the fact that they're also on my email address. They're also reading my freemium, which kind of causes them to hear my story, which of course I threw in there because I'm really smart, and walks them through a steps, which, by the way, in my freemium, the last step to recruiting is needing proper system, which then introduces them to my system. Guys, literally we have surrounded them in a bubble of, you're going to be Josh's next lifer. You don't really have a choice, which is essentially why, again, the ROI isn't that important, because even if I just make my money back initially, down the road, I've got a whole bunch of lifers. They read my mini book. They're getting my emails. P.S. I'm using my emails to get them to follow me on Facebook and Instagram. I mean, this is the definition of omnipresent. I'm going to have this person on every single platform being haunted by me and more of my ads. But let's say, even if it's not an ads kind of you're well, I'm cool with setting up this system, but I don't know about all the retargeting. Just forget all the retargeting, all of that BS for a minute, and just imagine, even if you don't have the money that I have to spend, which that is a pretty small budget and compared to a lot of the other stuff that I'm doing to get people on webinars. But let's just pretend you don't have that. How many of you would be willing to pay $20 a week to essentially have 20 people in your inbox that have your freemium saying, yes, I'm interested. I really, really, really need this. I mean, $1 per person, even if you can't afford a lot of money, I guarantee you most of you would be willing to shell out $20 right now, skip Starbucks 4 times this week, or maybe 3 times this week, to essentially have 20 people saying, I really want this. Because if one of those people pulls through, you profited. And that's the way you got to look at, that's the way I look at marketing. I always ask myself, what's the worst case scenario? If I spend $20 to have 20 people say, I'm interested, I guarantee you I can sell one of those people. And if I sell one of those people, I made money. And even if I only sell one of those people every 2 weeks, I still made my money back. To me, anytime I can make my money back to create the customers that are going to repeat spend money, to me, that's a win. And if I make extra money, it's just a bonus. Correct? I mean, how many of you would be willing to trade money for the exact same amount of money back in your pocket a week later, but now you've got 3 coaches, 3 reps, 3 ambassadors that want to work? I mean, I'll trade money for numbers any day. Okay.
Well, that's the thing as well. Yeah. And you need to be speaking to lots of people to be getting good leaders into your business as well. And you may only make $50 on the sale of a new leader joining your business, on whatever they purchase, but that person could be making you 10 grand a year in a year.
Yes.
In years. And so, that ROI can become incredible at that point as well. So,
right.
With any network marketing business, recruiting is a huge part of it. So the more people you can recruit, the more chance you've got of hitting those big numbers.
The numbers game. the numbers game. And here's the thing. Some of you are afraid of the numbers game because of the time and energy it takes. And what we are essentially trying to do is take away the time and energy so that you can play the numbers game without being up all night, without being like, oh my God, had a sick kid today, had this going on, had that going on. I play the numbers game with a very limited amount of time and energy, like I've said, because of having people like Steve. And even before I had Steve, I was utilizing automation via Facebook ads, webinars, all of that. It's just having someone like Steve has definitely taken it to a whole new level and organized it. And I've been hearing about these bots for so long, Steve, and I'm just going to tell you guys the truth because I know you're probably thinking the same thing. Here's what I said. I don't have the time to figure that out. I'm just being real. I heard about bots. I was like, that sounds like it could be a game changer, but I don't have time to figure that out. And essentially that's why we need people like Steve, because how many of you are like, I want to recruit, but I don't have time to figure out the entire system. That's why you signed up for my Art of Recruiting, because I literally did all the work to hand you the system. Okay. So essentially that's what Steve does is yes, he works for people or with people like me, where he literally takes it over, but then he also does some trainings and stuff where essentially you can get his template to basically know step by step, okay, let's take a weekend and let's just set this shit up and let it work for us. So I got one more question for you. And then we can just like chit chat and maybe answer a couple questions if people have questions. Does this go against relationship marketing and staying, here's my least favorite word in the world, genuine? But I go, Steve, I want everyone to get a personal message from me, even if I did hit Command V. I want it to be from me, from my heart, because I add that special little touch of love to the recipe.
Absolutely right. You do, Josh. Like you do. We all appreciate your love, Josh. So, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but I use automation to drive human to human interaction. I primarily have two businesses, one that works with smaller businesses, but most of my businesses with network marketers. And marketing for network marketers just doesn't work the same. You can't put a conversion pixel on Beachbody or Senegence's website or Provit's website. Their CEOs aren't going to allow that sort of tracking. So you can't run a typical Facebook ad for those sorts of things. So you're always running to drive a conversation. And essentially the bot is just filtering so that you can have a conversation at the end of it. You can get them to a certain stage. You can understand if they're never going to spend any money on anything. And then you can filter them into a place of where they belong. But it leads to that human contact. So for me, this is it's better than trying to be genuine. And there's crazy things you can do with bots. You can record videos, so you can have a set video that says, "Hey, this is the Josh." And Josh doesn't even know.
I didn't even know that.
This is the Josh bot, and I'm watching you, and I see you're not recruiting enough. Join my Art of Recruiting. You can send sound bites, you can send GIFs. I know
exactly what I'm doing all night after these calls are done. I'm just going to sit around and make fun videos that we're going to Steve just gave himself like an extra 40 hours of work.
I should have you on an hourly.
but that is awesome, because so much training right now has been around using videos to invite people via Instagram in the Messenger, and literally taking these videos and then copying and pasting them to people. Well, now we know we could have a robot doing that.
Well, just picture this, and this isn't something we've done yet because we're still exploring what we can do in the bot space. But let's say we have a post that's a recruiting post, and someone clicks send message, and then the first message is, "Hey, I hear you're here to do this. Do you know anything about network marketing?" Okay, yes. And then into the next video that then's like, "Okay, this is what this opportunity is. It's going to cost you about this much to get involved. You want to hear more about it?" The reason I say this is I read a great it was Reddit, a Reddit article recently that somebody went for an interview, and they walked into the interview, and the interviewer said, "This job's going to pay $70,000. Do you want to hear about the job?" So you immediately set this is what it's going to cost. Do you want to hear all the good bits about the job, or are you never going to accept it at $70,000? If so, get out the door. I love that radical honesty. So
I love that so much, because essentially, guys, we're gonna have a whole training on this. Essentially, you could have a sneak peek via your bot.
Yes.
Like
we're working on one. We're working on one.
That's absolute. I'm geeking. I'm going to be geeking out about this all night long. Just FYI, because obviously I know, and I've taught you guys. Anytime you can show video, this is why on my tracker, people living by my system have to go live every single Wednesday. P.S. We're putting together an IG 30-day challenge that we'll be implementing in the Push Mastermind next month, that is going to include making sure that you are doing some type of video every single day in your stories, because the amount of time and energy it takes for someone to know, like, and trust you. Those are my 3 words. If you haven't been around very long, if you have, you know that that's what I always preach. They got to know you, like you, trust you. The amount of posts it takes to get to know, like, and trust you. That's why it takes people so long to sign up, because they need to feel that trust, and they're not going to get that in 1 or 2 posts. They got to get to know you. The more of your face and your voice and your eyeballs and your personality they can see and feel. Notice how my hands are always on the screen, guys. Have you noticed that?
I was feeling mine were too big a minute ago. I was like, oh, my hands are really big.
It's a proven fact that people who talk with their hands sell better. Don't know if you knew that. Because it's more body language, and 80% of communication is body language, not words, which is why I don't give a F about grammar. So don't try to correct my posts or my emails. I don't really care. But it's 80% is body language. Okay. And so, man, when you can do stuff via video, game changer. That's why I invite all of you to a webinar once a month. Dang it, I'm giving away all my secrets tonight, Steve. What are you doing to me? We're giving away all my secrets. Okay.
I've given away all mine too. So if you're value first, right? You teach that one too, right?
I do. Add value before you ask for value, and add more value than what you ask for in return. Which is actually framed right over here. One of my girls, ADOS, she actually framed one of my quotes for me and gave it to me as a gift, which I appreciate so much. So here's what I want to chat with you guys about next, okay? I'm going to be super real with you. One of the reasons I invited you on here was to help you see how automation could change your business and how it could save you time, because that's the thing that I hear from people all the time. Josh, I don't have time to do everything I need to do to grow and go to the next level. So I hired Steve a couple months ago. We started going through this system, and I basically challenged Steve. I like to coach my team. I basically challenged him. I said, here's the thing, bro. A lot of people need this and can't afford your fees the way I can. How can we do something that they can afford so they can get the same type of advantage that I have in my business? One of the things I'm always asking myself is, how do I give my people the same advantage I have without them having to pay the price I paid? Hence the art of recruiting. Do you know how many hours of coaching people and doing Q&A calls and listening it took me to develop that system? Hours upon hours upon hours upon hours. One of the main reasons everyone says on almost every call, oh my God, Josh, it sounds like you are like in my head. People have been like, Josh, do you have like cameras in my house? Why is that? Because I've literally spent hours upon hours upon hours upon hours on Q&A calls, learning what you're struggling with, what you're going through, and then helping you solve those problems. And that is essentially every training that I ever create, that I've ever created, has essentially been hearing what you're struggling with and helping to find a solution for it. Everything I've ever done. It's never been like, this would be fun. I bet this would make money. It's always, no, this is what people are struggling with. This is what they need help with. And so I told Steve, I said, here's the thing, dude. People need something so that they can get the same advantage I have without having to spend the kind of money it takes to work with you. So essentially, we worked together to put together a training that teaches you how to implement everything he's doing for my business without having to pay him what I pay him. Okay. So Steve, I'm going to let you tell them a little bit about this training that you have put together, exactly what it's going to teach them, so they know exactly what their business could look like if they'd be willing to take, and be real. Let's be real. One weekend, I feel confident that in one weekend they could sit down, watch our videos, set up this system, and have it running. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't want to lead anyone astray and be like, oh, it's 4 hours of work, it's 8 hours of work, when in reality it's like 80 hours of work, but I don't feel like it is. So be real with us.
Absolutely. So, definitely not 80 hours of work. I think if you know exactly what you're doing and you follow the steps, you can put this together in a weekend. But we'll break it down into a smaller step than that for you. We'll break it down over a 6-week period. So, one of the things that I'm crazy passionate about, and if you've ever seen me speak about it before, is customer avatar and knowing who you're going out there, who you're looking for. It's something that Josh and I, when we started working together, I said, what do your people need? And he's like, well, they feel frustrated sometimes. They feel like, and he wants to help you go from this position of frustration to freedom, almost, the freedom from that frustration. And so, customer avatar is how we'll start. I want to make sure that you know exactly who you're working for. The reason we start there is the next step is going to be creating a lead magnet or a freemium. Still having trouble deciding which terminology to use on that one. But, it's important that your lead magnet is relevant to your to your audience. If I see another clean eating guide, I'm going to die. Honestly, I've seen so many clean eating guides. It's killing me. It's killing me. Do you have a freemium? Yeah, I've got a clean eating guide. Or a crock pot guide for a young woman in their 20s who may have to borrow a crock pot from their mum because they eat out most nights of the week.
I'm dying over here because I hear
You're dying about the clean eating guide, aren't you? Send them to me, Josh. Honestly, I should have a burning session of clean eating guides that are out there. In the next week, we're going to teach you how to set up a landing page, which is where on a website you get to where you put in your email address and then you automatically get put into an email series. So there's certain things that you need, certain trust factors. You can use video and things like that. But essentially, they're already partway down the path to get there. And you
don't have to. And a landing page does not mean you have to already have some type of like high tech website that you paid a bunch of money for. A landing page, the beauty of modern day technology, you can literally go purchase a page. You literally have a template where you literally just have one page that you can set up to basically collect your emails and give people whatever your freemium is. We'll stick with Shalene's. Shalene is queen. We'll stick with her language for now.
Absolutely. So yeah, and that's the thing. You just need one page on a website to do that. You don't need to have the rest of that. You probably should have that at some point, but we won't talk about that in this training. So a one-page place that people can do that. And then the next thing we'll do is we'll teach you how to set that up and link it up to an email autoresponder, so you can deliver that lead magnet, that freemium, and then you can start to engage people and build out value and show them who you are, get them to know you a little bit more, get them to trust you a little bit more. Maybe let's see you making cookies with the kids and flour all over you, and or maybe that terrible day that something bad happened and it was that low point that changed you and changed your perspective on life and made you realize that working for yourself was what you wanted to do. We will help you build that email list. In fact, we will give you 3 or 4 email templates that you can literally just copy, edit, and insert. And we'll tell you why the various aspects are in there, so that you know exactly why you're doing it. And if you want to create a different one in the future, you can do that. Dig it.
So we've got create a lead magnet. Sorry, avatar.
Avatar, lead magnet, landing page. Email campaign. We'll then teach you how to set up a basic Facebook ad that runs to those. You don't have to have a bot to do this. You can do all of this without a bot. You can do a Facebook ad which goes into a lead magnet, which someone puts an email address in, and then you can email them, and you don't have to touch the bots at that point. If you really cringe at the thoughts of a bot, I'm not sure why you would, because you can personalize it, but some people still like, I don't want to be, I want to be genuine. I want to be genuine, so they don't want a bot.
But let's be real. After tonight, we all want a bot. Can raise our hand and say all of us want our own robot.
The Josh bot will look after you. And then obviously we're going to teach you how to set up a messenger bot as well. We'll go through some of the very basic stuff that you can do there. We'll show you how to get set up with one of the bots that are out there. There's a couple of different ones that we've used. We love a certain one right now called Mobile Monkey. They're doing some very innovative things, and they're based out of somewhere up northeast near Harvard. So they're smart people.
I dig it. Hey, how about this? Can I throw in a bonus video on creating your freemium?
Sure. That would be great.
I know you already have good content on that, but can I throw in some of my own? We'll just throw that
Absolutely. As long as you're not teaching them to make clean eating guides.
One of the things that I'm really passionate about is essentially using my webinar formula to create a freemium. I'll just go ahead and give you my webinar formula if you haven't already noticed. I've only taught this in a few groups before, but essentially my webinar formula is this. I tell my story because I want people right off the bat to have an immediate connection to me. I always say if you fail to find their pain, you fail to get paid. I want to show you my pain to help you find your pain. I want people crying in the first 15 minutes of my presentation or my webinar. And then I lead people down a journey based on what do I want to sell. And my presentation is literally set up around, of course, adding value that people can go do something with, whether or not they want to purchase from me, okay? But essentially, I'm going to ask, and I learned this on the John Maxwell team technically, what do I want to sell them? Based on what I want to sell them, what are the 3 things that I need to teach them that shows them that the thing I have to sell actually solves the real problem? Does that make sense? So for instance, if I'm selling recruiting, okay, I'm going to tell people, I'm going to give my story about where I came from, what I went through, what I got to. Okay, now let me teach you how to recruit. Number 1, consistency. I'm making stuff up right now. Okay. Number 1, consistency. Number 2, arrogant as a rock star. Number 3, accountability. Because let's face it, you have limiting beliefs. You have things holding you back. And until you plug into accountability, you're going to keep doing the same shit you've been doing, expecting different results, and it's not going to work. You need someone to hold you accountable to. P.S. If you're someone who needs that, I have a specific system that I can plug you into that's going to work on your confidence so that you can become as arrogant as a rock star. That's going to give you the accountability you need to show up and put in the action every single day. If you're interested in this, let's get you in the art of recruiting. So essentially, I have a presentation that is selling my product. Now, again, even if you don't buy my product, you can take those 3 steps that I just gave you and you can go implement them on your own, and they will work every single time. I never teach things that don't work, but you're going to want to work that system with me because of the fact that I got you to know, like, and trust me, and I taught you the system. You're going to want to learn it. Everyone wants to learn from the creator. You never want to try to do it on your own when you could instead have access to the person who created this and made it work for the first time. So I'll do a bonus video for you guys because essentially my webinar formula is the same way you should create a freemium, because that way your freemium tells your story and leads them down a path that makes them go, dang, I want to work with that girl. Like I want to be in her group like now, and I'm going to message her butt right now because I want to get in. So we'll throw that in as a bonus, Steve.
That's awesome.
Sound good?
Awesome. It sounds great. You know, empathizing with your audience, you know, making them understand, showing them that you understand them is huge. So
yeah, they need to see that you are human and you used to be where they're at, and that's why they can trust you to get them where you are.
Perfect.
And even if you never create the freemium, I mean, I think you should just use that for your next sneak peek and just go ahead and sign 20 people to your team, because That's what Megan Geese did a couple months ago. She took my webinar formula and signed 17 people in one call.
Wow, that's awesome.
Bazinga. So let's get down to it, Steve. What's that? That's what they're going to get essentially. What's it going to cost? How can they get access to this?
Let me drop some links in here. So there's a couple of ways to get it, right, Josh? We are bundling it with your push leader. But let's talk about on its own. If you just want to have this course, I can't believe we're doing it at this price. Actually, I've just realized quite how valuable it is as we've been doing this. But it's too much.
The more you talk about it, the more you realize.
There's too much technology going to change it right now. So we are doing this course, this 6-week course. Facebook group week in, we'll have you guys will get to go through this course for the first time. So I'll be recording live, showing you step by step how to do it, question answers, etc., to make sure that you guys know exactly what you're doing. We want to see action from you. We want to see action and results. That's the purpose of this 6 weeks. I want you to all walk away with a funnel at the end of this that is helping automate your business for you. And we're doing it for, what did we say, $297?
Yep, $297 for 6 weeks to basically automate your whole system. Can I be honest with them about what I paid, Steve? Can I say that publicly so they can hear how good of a deal this is, or would you rather me give them?
Tell them it's fine.
I'm just gonna tell you. I know it's always weird to like give your like one-on-one prices out loud. But I paid Steve $2,500 to set up the system for me. And then on top of that, I pay him a monthly fee that's not a whole lot less than that to essentially oversee it and keep it going for me. I paid him $2,500 to set it up. And again, I realize most people don't have $2,500 to pay Steve to set up a system. And that's why I said we have to give people the system. We have to empower people to do the things that they could be doing on their own. So for $297, you're essentially, and this is where it's always like a weird thing to say out loud. You're essentially going to get more access to him than I do because you're with him in a 6-week live course where he's answering your questions.
You're making me feel guilty, Josh. Do we need a dinner date?
You're going to have to take me out for some wine, Steve. Come to California. You're going to have to buy me a drink.
We'll go to Napa.
But you've got 6 weeks to essentially have him walk you through it. And I actually encouraged him to record it live because that's the way I launch all of my groups, because I always appreciate the live access that I am allowing people to have, because one, it gives them the ability to ask questions that I hadn't even thought of. Like when I launch a training group, I know most of the stuff that's already in your head because I spent so much time with you, but there's always questions that come up that I hadn't really thought of. And it allows me to, in my live group, essentially answer more questions that I never thought to answer, and then add that bonus content to the training for future people who are also going to have that question. So that's the cool thing, is sometimes you download modules and it's like, okay, cool, I've got all these modules, but like now I have to go figure this shit out on my own. So you're going to have 6 weeks to kind of walk through it with him, get his guidance, get his help, get him to answer questions to make sure you get it set up right and get any questions you have answered. So
yeah, and it's a technical subject as well. So the benefit of being in those groups is huge. So I dropped the link there for the one way of getting it, and then the second way of doing it, Josh has been kind enough to essentially give you guys a $200 off it.
Yeah, so I know we've got a lot of people in the Virtual Leadership Summit, people reading my emails that want to be a part of the Push Leader. The Push Leader is essentially a full-blown system to teach you how to motivate and mentor your team. Same principles that I'm kind of consulting with Steve on doing his training, where you're basically going to get live access to me. We have bi-weekly Friday calls together that are leadership calls where we're going to have built-in Q&A time. I'm essentially handing you the system that my one-on-one clients pay to get access to, if that makes sense. Same concept. I take what works with my one-on-ones, what I charge a lot of money to get me personally to do for you, and I create systems and I teach them to people so that you can implement them in your business and get the same kind of results without having to pay for the same level of access. So the Push Leader is $11.99, and we're going to spend the whole rest of the year together. So what I did, I told Steve, here's the thing, man, bump it up to basically $12.99. I'm essentially giving you a $300 training for an extra $100, and I'm just taking the cut in my profits. Okay. So I'm essentially giving you $200 off Steve's training for doing the push leader and the automation thing together. And I can't really think of a better way to like really take your business to the next level than to learn a system that motivates and mentors and multiplies your team while integrating it with a system that is essentially modeling for you so that you have more time to motivate, mentor, and multiply your team. So I think Steve just dropped the link for that. P.S. If you sign up for the Push Leader, one of the bonuses that you get is a VIP ticket to my event, which is 30 days from today. You get a VIP ticket to that, as well as a workshop with Melanie Mitro the night before my event. If you don't know who she is, #1 in her company, 4 years in a row. She's flying in one day early for us to do a small workshop. You're going to essentially get to sit in a room with myself and Melanie Mitro with less than 30 people. You're going to be just like hanging out, like in the living room, chatting, hanging out with Melanie Mitro. That alone is what a lot of people in our industry are charging $1,200 for, right, Steve? To just literally just go sit in their living room for a 1 hour workshop. That's basically the free bonus that you're getting with this.
I'd have a 2-year-old climbing all over you if you're in my living room. That's why I my office.
I love it. Well, I have a couple minutes before I need to go do this push leader call. We've got a couple minutes if someone has a question about the program or about something Steve taught on tonight, more about it. We got time to maybe answer just like 2 or 3 quick questions. If you want to maybe just like pop them over in the chat box for us, we'll get those to you. And then we will send out this recording to everyone. And I'm going to basically, we're actually going to send it from Steve's email. That way, if you have questions about his group, you can ask, you can just go straight to him and be like, hey, dude, I was on the call or I watched the recording. It was great. I want to know about this. And you can sit there and have a chat with Steve or his bot, whichever thing he has going tonight. Sound good? Any questions? Is there any questions from anybody? See some questions in the chat if you've got something. If not, that's totally fine. I mean, I feel like we broke it down pretty good for him, Steve.
Yeah. What I'd say, just picking up on what you said about pairing Push Leader with Automate Your Business. What I've seen with, I've worked with Melissa for a couple of years now, is she always has a strong Q4. And so many people write off fourth quarter. People are like, oh, it's the holidays, no one can afford to get started, etc. But people who are strong in the fourth quarter start the year well. There's no better time to start a new distributor than from October through to December. If you're in certain businesses, they're going to do great at December. Others, they're going to do great in January. So it's such a powerful time. And so while everyone else is busy getting their full decor out or whatever it is and making pumpkin spiced everything, this is my wife. It's a great opportunity to really set a firm grounding for having an amazing 2019. And I know it's scary talking about 2019 already, but it's there around the corner.
And I'm going to throw this in because I hung out with Melissa in person. When was that? I don't know, probably 6 months ago. Maybe 6 months ago, I was in Dallas hanging out. So I went and spent the day with her, worked out with her. We did leg day together, which I cried about for the next 5 days. And one of the things she told me back then, which is why I stayed curious about Steve, was she was telling me about Steve. And I was like, okay, like, what's it doing for your business? I want to hear about it. And she's like, well, honestly, I'm hitting bigger numbers than I've ever hit. And Melissa will prides herself on being one of the top 10s that doesn't hit the top 10 kind of numbers. And she was like, for the first time in my business, like I'm actually hitting top 10 kind of numbers, because Melissa is a little bit more in the approach of she hits big enough numbers that most of you would be impressed with, Success Club 40 and 10 new coaches. But for top 10 people, that's not a big deal. Success Club 40, 10 coaches, and then she's really, really, really good about getting those 10 people to actually do stuff. Because of the way she's automated her business, she has plenty of time to spend with those people. Well, essentially, when she added Steve, what she's saying, here's the thing, I'm still motivating and mentoring at a high level like I've always done, but now my numbers, which was never my strength, are literally doubling. And now essentially I have twice the amount of people to motivate and mentor and multiply. And I'll just say this, when all the rest of the people who are pushing for top 10 are like killing themselves in December, she's in Mexico. Because all of the systems that she has set up are doing the work for her. She's able to go chill out and relax and enjoy the end of her year when everyone else is freaking out. So just throwing that in, that is a personal testimony from Melissa, who is in the same business as you. I know I'm not essentially in the same business as you. It's very similar, but it's not the same. Melissa is. And that was actually the reason I hired Steve, because Melissa preached him up so well and is a firm. Melissa loves this guy enough that Steve is in the team page and literally goes live in there a couple times a week. She is essentially, I don't know what she's paying for this, but essentially Steve also like is a part of Team Made and always in there live and doing stuff. So anyways, I just thought that I would throw that in because I personally love Melissa McAllister like more than anyone in the world other than my mom. She's probably the sweetest person in the freaking world. So when she says someone's good people, they're good people. All right, guys, when do we need to purchase by a certain time, or is there an official start date to the 6-week course, Steve?
October 1st. Let's October 1st is on a Monday, perfect time. Give you 10 days or so to kind of get ready and get started with that.
Cool. When do you know you are ready to hire you all? When do you know when you have $2,500 that you're ready to do it? I think that's what you mean by that. Like, when do you know when your business is ready to hire Steve or me? The second you have enough extra money to do it. I mean, I personally teach my people, when your business starts profiting, immediately start investing some of that back into your business to get you to the next level. Now, when you're ready to invest 2,500 of it, I mean, that's up to you. That's really up to you. I mean, I think that's a little bit different for everybody. You kind of have to know based on the kind of money you're making. Again, I'm going to tell you what I mentioned earlier, worst case scenario. Okay. So for me personally, a worst case scenario, spending $2,500 with Steve is he automates a whole bunch of stuff and it sucks. And I lost $2,500 and didn't hurt that much, because the pro is if it does work, my business could literally like double or triple and make tens of thousands of extra dollars a month. So you got to know, you always have to know, what am I okay with losing? Okay. Based on how much I could possibly gain. Does that make sense? And if you're not ready to lose $2,500 for the sake of what you could gain, then maybe you're not ready for it. Maybe your belief isn't ready for it, whatever. I mean, if you listen to Jen Sincero, if Jen Sincero were on here right now, she'd be like, you fucking find a way. You manifest it. You ask yourself, how can I? I'm not going to quite go Jen Sincero mode on selling my own stuff. I feel like that's a little unkosher to tell people go find a way to pay for my, but I will say, if you know it's the right thing for you, okay? If you know it's the right thing for you, put it out to God, put it out to the universe, and just say, this is what I know I need. Now I'm going to find a way to make it happen. And that's completely different than saying, I know I need it, but I can't afford it. And that's totally different than just realizing you don't need it. And that's okay too. It's okay to just realize you don't need something, okay? But never say, this could be the biggest game changer I've ever had and I can't afford it. You can't afford not to take the biggest game changer you could have had. I'll just end with that. Okay.
Yeah, what I would add to that is just, you know, Josh does a great job of having products that you can have a taste of him. You can learn his systems, and you can pick up a little bit of him. And it's the same with this course. You know, you don't have to pay $2,500. You can have access to me for $297 essentially.
Right.
And so, you know, we both are very passionate. We love working with people one-on-one, but we also love helping change lives. And we're both big believers in network marketing, really crazy passionate about it. So
cool. All right, guys. Well, I got to go do a call for my Push Life. Steve is going to email out the recording to everyone. Okay. And then essentially you'll be able to ask him any questions you have there. If you have questions about his plus mine, you know where to find me, joshcoates.com, or of course you can come chat with my bot. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. If you come to my personal page, there's no bot there, and me and you will just have a good chat about what you need. All right. Thanks, Steve, for joining us. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you for your time. It's great to be here.
Love you guys. Believe in you. See you all soon. Night.